Our top story this half hour, the head of the Central Intelligence Agency defended the agency after the release of that damning torture report by the Senate Intelligence Committee. CIA Director John Brennan acknowledged that some of the methods used by the agency's, quote, enhanced interrogation techniques were abhorrent. However, he also made it clear he supports the basic principle when it comes to getting information from terrorists.
I have already stated that our reviews indicate that the detention and interrogation program produced useful intelligence that helped the United States thwart attack plans, capture terrorists, and save lives. It is our considered view that the detainees who were subjected to enhanced interrogation techniques provided information that was useful and was used in the ultimate operation to go against bin Laden.
It was after the 9/11 attacks that the agency added the new techniques to get information from suspected terrorists. Meantime, there is another surprising development on the subject of detainees. The U.S. has just announced that it has officially closed down Bagram Prison, the last American detention facility in Afghanistan. They also declared that all of the prisoners held there are no longer in U.S. custody. One of them, Riyad al-Najjar, whose torture was described in the Senate report. He is also, according to recent reports, suspected of having been one of Osama bin Laden's bodyguards. With me now is Riyad al-Najjar's attorney, Caitlin Steinke. She also works with the International Justice Network. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, Caitlin, as far as representing him, what were the original charges that he was
No charges have ever been brought against Riyad al-Najjar.
Now, what have you learned from this Senate report as far as what you've been able to see in the news? Have you read the report itself?
Most of it, not all of it. Well, the important thing to remember first is that the entire report has not been released. The 6,000-page report is still classified, but the executive summary that has been released includes really damning evidence against the CIA for torturing innocent people in a lot of cases, for manipulating the results of those interrogations. And especially with regard to Riyad, there is an entire section devoted to the horrific and sadistic abuse that he underwent while he was in CIA detention.
Can you tell us a little bit more about exactly what they did to him? Not too graphic details, but I understand it was pretty bad. It
was shocking. There was isolation in complete darkness. He was forced to wear diapers, and he was not allowed to use the toilet facilities. He was subjected to very loud music for 24 hours a day. He was hooded, he was shackled, and I think for us, as his lawyers, the International Justice Network represents him, we were most shocked by the revelation that he had been what's called hanged, where they shackle the detainees' wrists to a bar above their head that prevents them from lowering their arms. Riyad was in that position for 22 hours a day.
You know, it strikes me that if he was a prisoner of war, he'd be subject to the Geneva Accords, so it seems like he was treated even worse.
Exactly.
Now, what about the release, the timing of the release? It seems suspicious.
I agree. It does seem very suspicious. The report was released on Tuesday, and on Wednesday morning we were contacted by attorneys for the government telling us that he had been transferred the day before, which means he was transferred on the same day that the report was released. And we have no doubt that the release of the report played a huge role in expediting that transfer. The United States government did not have to close Bagram for another 3 weeks.
What do you think of the alleged charge that he might be allied with Osama bin Laden and part of that whole cadre of people that surrounded that terrorism suspect?
That was news to us. We had never heard any of those allegations. The U.S. government never informed us of any of the reasons that they had for detaining Riyad. And I think what's important to note, too, is these are still unsubstantiated allegations. They have not been brought in a court of law. Riyad has had no opportunity to defend himself from these allegations. And even the allegations themselves in this report, we don't know the whole story. There's no evidence showing why they believe that to be true. There's certainly no admissions from him saying that that's true. There's so many redactions. There's still, the majority of the report remains classified. And we just don't know the whole picture. We don't know where this information came from.
So you representing him presents a problem, because if you wanted to go after the people who may have harmed him, you'd have a hard time doing that.
Absolutely. And you know, prosecution is one of the ways to achieve justice, but we certainly don't have much hope that will be achieved. But the bigger issue here is, how do we prevent this from occurring in the future? Because currently the rule of law as it stands in this country is that detainees like Retta, who were indefinitely, arbitrarily detained without charge, even without access to legal counsel, they were not allowed to defend themselves in court. And because there's no transparency, that can continue into the future.
Okay, Caitlin Steinke, thank you for joining us here on Arise News.